Chapter 3. "Do my senses deceive me?" Ben Franklin muttered to himself. "Zoons, but I must be dreaming." He pinched himself. "Wake thee up, Ben." He slapped his cheeks. "Rouse thyself." He shook his head. "I am most assuredly awake." Lifting his fur cap, he scratched his head like it would help him think. Could this all be a hallucination brought on by bad ale or bilious fever or— He snapped his fingers. "Steak and kidney pie! Oh, but I should never have eaten it all. Oh, a full belly makes a dull brain." He was so busy pondering that he didn't seem to notice Olive and me standing there. That is, until Olive stepped up and poked him in the tummy. "You aren't really Benjamin Franklin, are you?" He jumped up, startled, and stared at my sister before drawing himself up. "Young lady, there are 3 things extremely hard: steel, a diamond, and to know oneself. Yet even in my discombobulated state I can assure you that I am unquestionably Ben Franklin." "Okie dokie," said Olive. She turned to me. "He's real." "None of this can be real," I said. "You must be a hallucination." "It is scientifically impossible for all 3 of us to be experiencing the same hallucination," he replied. I shook my head. There had to be some explanation for what was happening. There just had to be. "I know," I finally said. "You're a ghost." He pinched himself again. "As you can see, I am most decidedly flesh and bone." Olive's eyes sparkled. "We brought back Benjamin Franklin with that radio thingy. We really, truly brought it back." I glanced over at the crystal radio. It wasn't glowing or chattering anymore. It just sat there on the counter, dark and silent. That's not possible. But even as I said the words, I knew it was. Somehow, some way, we had turned the dial, and instead of modern-day Paris or New York City, we'd tuned into colonial America. I shook my head. "This is crazy." "But so cool," said Olive. Benjamin Franklin coughed to get our attention. "It appears you children know who I am, and yet I do not know you, or for that matter, where I am." Olive nudged me forward. "You tell him." I made a face at her. Then I turned to Benjamin Franklin. I couldn't believe what I was about to say. Hiya. Greetings, Mr. Franklin, sir. I'm, Nolan Stanberry, and that's my sister." "Olive!" She waggled her fingers and gave him a gap-toothed smile. Pulling off his fur cap, he took a little bow. "I'm charmed to make your acquaintance." "Us too. Charmed, that is," I said. I took a deep breath, knowing what I had to say. "Mr. Franklin?" "Call me Ben. Everyone does." I tried again. "Ben, you might want to sit down for this." "For what?" "It's time to break the news. You're not in Philadelphia anymore?" He raised an eyebrow. "You're in Rolling Hills, Illinois, in 21st century America." I could see my words sinking in by the changing expression on his face. Disbelief. "This can't be. It breaks with all known scientific principles." Surprise. "And yet the scientific mind is ever questioning." Wonder. Does the lad speak true? Have I traveled across 2 centuries? Excitement. "I have! I truly have!" "I think he took it pretty well," I said to Olive. "Oh, yeah," she replied. Ben spun in an excited circle, giggling and holding his head as if it might burst. Finally he paused and looked over at Olive and me. I beg you, children, pray show me more of your century's innovations and advancements before I return to my own. I shan't waste this precious opportunity. He looked around the kitchen and pointed to an object on the counter. Tell me, what is that device? It's a toaster, said Olive. You plug it in, and the bread toasts. The coils heat by electricity, I added. Ben gasped. Did you say electricity? Could it be that my modest experiment with kite and key has come to something? Olive grinned and flipped the wall switch. The light above the kitchen table snapped on. Ben gazed up at it. Oh, it does work! It works! He nodded toward the switch. May I? Sure, said Olive. Ben snapped the light off, then on, then off, then on again. Zoons, but it works every time! He rubbed his hands together. I must see more! I pulled Olive aside. I think he's seen enough, I whispered. I glanced up at the stairs, expecting Mom to appear at any moment. This would definitely not make things easier for her, or us. Ben has to go back right now, like this very instant, before anyone finds out he's been here. I glanced over at the radio. It should be pretty easy, just a few clicks of the dial and, Hey, Ben, look at this, cried Olive. Ignoring me, she flipped a switch on the blender. Vroom! And this! She pushed the buttons on the microwave. Beep, beep! And this! She turned on the coffee grinder. Grrr! No, stop! I called to her. Didn't you hear what I said? But she and Ben were off, pushing buttons, pulling levers, flipping switches, plugging in cords, and whoosh, flushing the toilet in the guest bathroom. I could see them through the open doorway. Ben bent over in deep concentration. By Jove, a cleaning commode, he declared. Ingenious. He flushed again. Whoosh. Where does the clean water come from? Whoosh. Where does the dirty water go? Whoosh. The scientific mind is ever questioning. What's all that flushing? Mom called from the top of the stairs. Is someone sick? Olive rushed out into the hallway. I rushed after her. Don't worry, Mom, Olive called back. It's just Ben Franklin experimenting with... I slapped my hand over Olive's big mouth. Too much juice, I shouted up the stairs. I drank too much juice. There was a long silence. I could tell Mom was standing there deciding whether she should come down. Are you sure everything's under control, Nolan? Sure, I'm sure, I said. I shook my head. Mothers. Geez. What goes on in their brains? They get all suspicious over a little toilet flushing. But bunches of appliances zapping on and off, that doesn't faze them one bit. Whoosh! Mom sighed and shut her door. Olive squirmed away. She wiped her lips. Let me go! I could feel things hurtling out of control. He has to go back. Now! From the laundry room came the sound of the dryer buzzing. Incredible! Said Ben. Why? Asked Olive. He's our new friend. Our really, really, really old new friend. The ceiling fan in the family room whirred. Stupendous! I want to keep him, said Olive. Are you kidding? He's Ben Franklin, not a goldfish. The television blared. Zoons! It boggles the mind! Ben sat down, mesmerized by the flashing images. What is this marvel? Olive glanced in through the doorway. Oh, that's a reality show called Real or Wig. The guest stars try to figure out if the person's hair is really their own or... Olive! I yelled, but then caught myself and whispered through gritted teeth. Olive! She looked at me. This is serious. I said.
He can't stay.
Wig! Ben shouted at the television. She looked back at the television, giggled, and made a buzzer sound. Sorry. That's just a super bad haircut. It's called a mullet. I grabbed her arm.
Listen, will you? Sure, it would be fun to keep Ben around. It'd probably be like the coolest thing ever. But that radio, or whatever it is,
it's a time machine. She rolled her eyes. Obviously.
All I'm saying is that we have to keep it and him secret. We can't let anyone know, not even Mom.
Why not? I couldn't explain. I just knew deep down in my guts that we needed to keep all this quiet. Wig! Shouted Ben again. I walked into the family room and flipped off the reality channel. Ben looked disappointed. Olive humphed. All right, fine. We'll send him back. I sighed with relief. Right after the tea party. Oh, brother. Chapter 4. Ben Franklin sure could eat. Besides a whole box of pizza puffs, he inhaled half a bag of potato chips, 2 peanut butter and strawberry jam sandwiches, a stack of marshmallow cookies, and 3 teacups of tropical fruit punch, which he gulped down with his pinky raised. He wouldn't touch the sprouts and stuff, though, not after he'd sampled a bite. They taste, he said, like weeds and dirt. Olive shot me a look. Told you so. She held out a bag to Ben. Would you care for a few more cheesy doodles? She said in her best party voice. Waste not, want not, said Ben. She shook out the last of the doodles onto his Princess Aquamarina tea party plate. He crunched on one. Ah, delicious doo-doo. Olive giggled. Not doo-doo, silly. Doodles! A doo-doo is... I thumped the crystal radio onto the kitchen table. Ben's eyes lit up. What, pray tell, is that? I think it's how you got here, I explained, and how we'll be able to send you back. I picked up the headphones. Not yet, cried Olive. She snatched the headphones away. I want Ben to tell me a story first. No, Olive, we have to send him home. She stuck out her chin. Come on, I said. Give him. Ben's traveled here from a long time ago, and I want to know what it was like back then. She turned to Ben. Tell us a story from colonial days. Pretty please. I groaned. We don't have time for this. Mom could come downstairs any second. Just one, she said. Ben broke in. At the risk of sounding immodest, I am a renowned recanteur. My storytelling abilities are exemplary. See? He's exempt. Expat. He's good, insisted Olive. Geez, she was stubborn. I raised my hands in defeat. Hooray! Whooped my sister. She wiggled around, getting comfortable in her chair. But just one, I added firmly. Ben nodded. I confess, sitting here in this electrified room with these unusual yet delicious comestibles does put me in mind of a story. He started to talk, and as he did, I could see the pictures in my mind's eye. All the details, just like in a graphic novel. In the city of Philadelphia, there lived a man known far and wide for taming lightning and uncovering its mysteries. He's a sorcerer, a wizard, a mad scientist. Ah, there I am. Welcome, friends. Allow me to demonstrate. Watch carefully. Bzzzt. Cling, clang, cling, clang, clang, ding, clang. But there is more, friends. Observe. Bzzz.
Ah!
Oh. Ah, but there's even more. Allow me to show you how to cook with electricity.
You are a genius, Mr. Franklin.
A veritable wizard of electricity.
I do admire a man with brains.
Zzz, thump. Mr. Franklin, can you hear me?
Speak to us, sir.
It appears, madam, that instead of cooking a turkey, I almost cooked a goose. Olive clapped.
You are a good storyteller.
Thank you, young Olive. I'm glad you didn't tell that kite in the thunderstorm story, I said. I've heard that one a gazillion times. But this one was all new to me. Ben raised an eyebrow. You've heard tell of my kite experiment? Everyone's heard that, said Olive. I nodded. It's a pretty famous story from American history. What my teacher, Mr. Druff, calls a greatest hit. Our social studies book at school was full of your greatest hits. At that, Ben's chest puffed up like a peacock's. Tell me which of my other, greatest hits have made it into your history books. I thought a moment. The Franklin stove, I said. The lightning rod, the public library.
Rolling Hills has a library,
interjected Olive. Every town does, I added. Ben's chest swelled so big I thought the brass buttons on his coat were going to pop right off. I also had an idea of forming clubs of active men to combat Philadelphia's fires. Fire departments, I said.
Every town has one of those too,
said Olive. Oh, but I am reeling with joy, said Ben. Olive bounced up and down in her chair.
Let's show him. Come on, Nolan. Let's take Ben to the library.
Ben bounced too. That is a splendid idea. You are a precocious young lady, Miss Olive. No, it's not a splendid idea, I said. I turned to my sister. You can't walk around town with Benjamin Franklin. He's the real guy. You know, founding father, inventor of electricity, wearer of fur cap and short pants. From the past. Famous dead guy.
Nolan, exclaimed Olive. Don't call him that.
Many pardons for interrupting your discussion, Ben cut in. But I believe there is something unusual happening at yonder window. I turned. The glassy eye of a periscope peeked just above the sill.